for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk.
You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how easily rage can deflate in the face of someone else's fear. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Hey, do you remember how at the end of Act 1, Hawk and company were betrayed by Bartrand for the sake of a weird artifact? Well, Bartrand is back in Hightown, and Varric would like to have a word with him. The squad heads over to his derelict estate, and nothing is adding up. There are fresh corpses and crazed guards ready to carve us up, and at the end of it all is Bartrand, hearing voices and seeing things, all because of the idol that drove a wedge between him and Varric. Bartrand has done some awful things while under the influence of this idol. Can Varric ever forgive him?
Yeah. I have no transition, so I'm just going to bring up that I did the Isabella thing that you mentioned at the end of last episode. So before we get into the bulk of this episode, which is around Varric's mission, I was originally not going to talk about it, but then it went a way I didn't expect, and so I'm going to bring it up here. But it was the same thing. She came to visit, commented on how terrible my new pretty house is, because she's rude.
Yeah.
And so I did flirt with her and engage, and it led to a one-night stand, at which point I then pressed and was like, hey, well, it doesn't have to be a one-night thing, right? And she basically does oh, God, you're not bringing feelings into this, are you? And you can explore it and talk about, like, that she was married before and that she's done with love and all this other stuff. And the way she just kind of candidly talks about not really caring deeply for people, for me was like just the biggest heartbreaker, because I was like, but that's what I want. The thing you're describing that you don't like and can't stand is the actual thing I want for this character. So I then called it off. I basically didn't pursue. I said, well, if that's how you feel, like, I don't agree, but I guess that's how it is. And then she basically leaves saying, well, if you ever change your mind, I know a nice comfy corner in the Hanged Man where we can revisit this conversation. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, this is the character I romanced in my very first playthrough, but I think it was more due to impulse than anything else. I don't think I really thought it through much. This time around, though, I was just disappointed with how she reacts. I get why she's guarded. It's just a bummer that she doesn't take anyone else's character in consideration. She's just kind of done with it and won't, like, let anyone in. And I don't want a project, basically.
Yeah. I agree, which is kind of why when she was like, let's hook up, I was like, ooh, no.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my
be a headache. I don't want it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my moments in the past where I've pursued stuff like that, but like also due to my wealth of experience, it's like, oh, maybe this was a bad idea. And the way you're talking about it, it definitely sounds like a bad idea. So like, thanks for the fun, but I think this isn't going to work. So
well, it's good that you know what you want and what your boundaries are, and you're able to enforce that.
Yes, at least in a video game.
Yes. I actually had a conversation with a friend recently where we were talking about how we communicate being different from a neurotypical person, because we're both on the spectrum, and how she was saying that she has been told in the past that she is too direct, and being too blunt puts people off. And I've told her that while that certainly can be true, I think that you owe it to yourself and the people in your life to at least say to them, like, hey, just so you know, this is how I communicate. If it's ever too much for you, please let me know and I will do my best. But, like, you need to meet me halfway.
Yeah.
And while I was saying this to her, and I was like, you need to stand up for yourself and you need to communicate the way you need to communicate, I had a moment I was like, oh, hey, that's you too. this is at you as well. Because I still do the same thing where I like bend myself in knots worrying about how a neurotypical person perceives my messages and like being too communicative with them because a lot of people see that as being needy or clingy. I was like, no, I just have a lot of thoughts and I like answers.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess also you're in a different place in your life because you moved to a whole different country. You had to like you still have your friends here, but you had to start a lot of new friendships from scratch. And so there involves a lot of early conversation. For me, being in my 40s and being in the same place I've been for a long time, I basically just don't care anymore in the sense that like I don't need any more friends.
Right.
I mean, like I like
you don't
I like
have to worry about putting people off because the people in your life like
basically know already.
Yeah, you have built your rapport and you don't have to worry about it.
Right,
but correct. I do have new people coming into my life. I just thought of it because of the whole concept of putting down boundaries and speaking up for yourself and knowing what it is that you want. I think that even in a video game, it's really good to be able to say like, hey, I know what I want and it isn't this.
Yeah, totally. And like, it's not like I never have to do it. You know, I still go to conventions. I still meet new people. But it's like a lot of it is often, oh, I put that person off. Well, I guess we'll figure it out or bye. Like it's not a lack of caring about people. It's more that I've hit a place in my life where like I'm not knocking down doors trying to meet new people all the time. My bar hopping, schmoozing days are over, except for like industry stuff, which is I think is a different level. And like also I operate at a different level at those almost neurotypical. I'm sure I'm not quite, but like, you know, it's a heightened when I get businessy, it's a heightened version.
It's a
of
spectrum.
Myself. Right. You know, it's a mask, sort of speak. So that kind of thing. But yeah, no.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and also like, but it's important to know yourself. And that said, with my actual friends, it doesn't stop me from worrying that they still don't understand or that I said something wrong or, oh no, they hate me now. That stuff kind of never goes away. But
at least you can say to them, hey, I feel weird about our interaction. Can you reassure me?
Bold of you to assume that.
I'm going to stand up to you, my darling friend.
I know. I do in most cases, but like I let the paranoid worries peter out first because if I did it every time I thought it, I'd be bringing it up all the time. It's like the, you know, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. and can't fall asleep and think everybody hates you moments. Those can kind of die on the vine. I don't think I need to bring them up to anyone but my therapist.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. I had also an interaction before going to the Hanged Man, but it was not a sexy interaction. I checked in on my dog and Sebastian was there hanging out with Hercules.
Mm-hmm.
And he was being really nice to my dog, so I guess he can stay for now.
Okay.
I guess he can be in the club.
Okay.
If you're nice to my dog, I guess you can hang.
I did wander around the house a bit. I didn't interact with anybody except our good friend, the Enchantment Boy.
Did you forget his name?
For a moment, yes. But also Enchantment Boy sounds sweet.
He is very enchanting.
He is. And it's just very funny because after I put runes into my new staff, and afterwards I walked away and he went, enchantment. It was very funny.
I have to do that. I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, who did you take with you to go chat with Varric?
I took Varric, obviously. Anders and Fenris.
Oh no, we took the same squad.
I have to be honest though, it didn't really matter.
That's true. It was very well.
No, that's true. There's one moment where it matters, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But like for the majority of the mission, it didn't. I will say we'll get to it. But when we first entered Bartrand's estate, I was very confused because I didn't remember this mission. But yeah, so I brought them and went to the Hangman, and Varric is basically like, so that bastard's back. Let's go kill him. Not quite, but like basically how he feels at the beginning of this mission is like I'll let him explain himself before I kill him, but I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah, like Varric has news and he expects that it's going to make Hawk angry. He talks to us about how Bartrand ran to Rivain after the Deep Roads incident, but he has called in loans from his contacts in Kirkwall. And Varric says that Bartrand would do anything for money. So, according to these contacts, Bartrand may be in Hightown, and the two of our characters are hell-bent on confronting Bartrand.
Yeah, it is funny when Varric first says, I've got some bad news for you you're not going to like. You do get your 3 branches of responses.
Did you do the let me buy you a pint?
No, I did the what there's nothing you could possibly say to make me dislike my favorite dwarf. Which was the, I think, overly positive response. Yeah. Because it's true. He is my favorite dwarf, at least for now.
I said, let me buy you a pint. And he was like, you're making this so much harder than it has to be. I love that dummy.
Yeah, he's great. So from here we head to Bartrand's estate, which is in Hightown.
And once we get to Hightown, usually I love a girl gang, but these invisible sisters need to be put down.
They were very annoying. I always forget.
There's so many of them.
And I always forget between sessions that you can, at night especially, just get attacked in the streets, because in every other Dragon Age game besides this one, there's no combat in the towns unless it's like a special event. Whereas here, basically at night, and I think in Lowtown, anytime.
Not Lowtown anytime. It is the docks, maybe. Lowtown, and Hightown all at night are being run by different gangs, and you have to eliminate the gangs that are on the streets to get access to the hideout to eliminate the gang from there.
Yeah, and so it keeps happening basically automatically until they're all eradicated, and then I think you get a quest for it after that, or you talk to someone or something.
You find a note that says where their hideout is.
Oh, right.
And then somebody pays you for getting rid of them.
And like, I understand from an immersion perspective the thought behind it. And like, also it goes against what's normal in gaming, where like you consider towns to be safe spaces. And because basically we can't leave this city, except to go to like the fringes on the outside, like Sunder Mountain stuff, because it's so confined. I understand adding these combat areas so there's something happening. Mm-hmm. But, it's just one of those things that ends up being more annoying than interactive. But I do understand the purpose behind it.
Yeah. It's just, there's so many of you. Please leave me alone.
I'm
just trying to walk.
I'm basically at the point now with my mage that I just only pick up AoE spells, and like while everyone else is fighting enemy by enemy, because I hate having to click to attack, I just drop the massive spells and go, all right, that'll do the job.
Man, I just mashed that A button. Just like tick, 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 tick. Okay, so as we approach Bartrand's estate, we see that the house looks like it's been empty for months, which can't be true because Varric knows that there were deliveries being made as recently as the previous day.
Yeah, but they decide to enter anyway, just to... Basically, my hawk says, well, there's got to be some kind of clue here, even if he's not here anymore, which is unlikely. We'll find something. The trail is still hot. We should check. And then when we enter... Varric kicks the door in, and suddenly we're playing just as Varric by himself, annihilating guards left and right.
I really love this scene.
I do too. I was very confused at first because I didn't remember it, and I'm just like, why am I playing as Varric? And also haven't really played as Varric this playthrough, so I don't know his abilities.
Yeah.
So I'm stumbling my way through remembering what does what.
Yeah, it is a little hard when you don't know the abilities, but it doesn't really matter because... this scene serves as a reminder that we as a player are experiencing a narrative being driven by someone else entirely. Varric plays with the truth. He makes it a little bit better. He makes it a little cleaner, and he protects himself and the people he cares about within the story. Instead of launching into a vulnerable tale where he and Hawk go through this house and discover some awful things, he gives the seeker something flashy to distract her, except it doesn't work. Because it's not even close to the truth, and it's easy to see through. We encounter Varric on his own, facing down a legion of mercenaries, Bianca launching an arrow through 3 men. Every shot is a one-hit kill. And then we see Bartrand on his knees begging for forgiveness. it's the story he wished it could be. Something clean and easy without any of the complication, without any of the pain.
Yeah, and as you're going through, basically every standard attack you do is a one-hit kill. You basically don't take any damage from the guards, even if you're swarmed. And once you finish and get this cutscene where the one arrow goes through 3 guards to expose Bartrand on his knees begging, the Seeker interrupts. Cassandra goes, wait a minute, that can't be right. That's not true. And Varric basically confesses, no, it's not. But you don't really want to hear the true story. And Cassandra insists, like, no, you have to tell me the truth. That's the whole point of this. You've been, in theory, telling me the truth, so you have to continue to do so. And Varric acquiesces, but expressing that the truth is way more complicated. And then we enter the estate as our party and start to fight our way through guards who seem to be out of their mind, crazed, and don't have basically any control of their faculties.
Yeah, they are described as crazed guards. They attack us without any provocation. We just have to fight our way through. And anytime we encounter a room with bodies that we're not responsible for, Varric expresses distress. Like, what happened here? Why is this like this?
Right.
Like, he's getting increasingly worried. But as we emerge into the main entrance room, I don't know how to describe it. It's not really a foyer. It's almost like a ballroom because it has the stairs coming down.
That's
maybe
true.
it's supposed to be where they entertain. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
like
whatever.
A main entrance, maybe.
The main room, right, with the high ceilings and the staircase. After we fight our way through there, we encounter a character that doesn't want to kill us. Bartrand's steward, Hugin, who explains what has been going on. The statue that Bartrand betrayed us for completely bewitched and destroyed Bartrand's mind. He was obsessed with it. He was terrified of it. He alternated between paranoia and obsession. And when he finally got rid of it, everything got so much worse. He started to force guards to eat lyrium. He started to torture the servants. He was cutting pieces off of people.
Yeah.
You know, and even after he sold the idol, he didn't get better.
Yeah. Huggins basically says that there were moments where he would cry out for help or want someone to make it stop or talk about the singing he hears, and those were the good days. It got way worse after he sold it, and that he never really came out of it, but there were bad days and worse days. There were no more good days.
And Hugin even suggests that we kill Bartrand, which, given the abuse of the servants, I would typically be down for, but only from a mentally sound person. A person who knows what they're doing is wrong, and they choose to do it anyway. But from what we learn, Bartrand isn't well.
Yeah, I mean, intent is always important. It doesn't always explain things or deserve forgiveness, but context is still key, and intent is still important broadly, I think. And it sounds like, though we haven't found Bartrand yet, that he's out of his mind. Hugin does let us know that Bartrand is in the main office where we are pointed at, that he's been locked in there for days without food, without anything, just he won't come out. So he must still be in there, but he has no idea if he's even alive at this point. He assumes so, but has not been able to go, and has been hiding because every time the guards see anyone, they kill them. And he just was basically hiding, hoping someone would come and find him.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do with this podcast is to find real world parallels with events that we encounter. How science fiction and fantasy adapt real world events into something that is digestible almost. And I want to say that because Bartrand is suffering from delusions, he is seeing things and hearing things, he's suffering from paranoia, and this is the result of magic, lyrium. I think we can compare this to real world stigmatized conditions such as schizophrenia.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's not there's never going to be a clear one-to-one, but there is definitely a comparison to be made to many kinds of mental disorders that like can hamper your interactions or push you to do things or lose control or all of these other things. And I think schizophrenia is probably one of the more clearer imprints, though I don't have a lot of personal experience with it, only what I've read and seen. And even some of that stuff is embellished on depending on what the sources are.
Because while this particular example is so often demonized in media, it's not fair for us to do so in reality. I don't think anyone in either of our personal spheres suffers from this disorder, but I'm sure that we know people who have been through this. And, you know, I think it must be really scary to not be able to rely on what you see and hear, to not know if what your brain is telling you is the reality. So you add to that the careless characterization that having any kind of disorder means that you're more likely to succumb to violence, and the reaction that brings out in the neurotypical, I'd never leave my room if I had to put up with that.
No, it's absolutely scary, and especially if you don't have some kind of caretaker or someone to guide you, someone who understands what you're going through. Like in this case, the hardest part is that Bartrand starts to spiral, and the person closest to him, his steward, doesn't know what to do and panics, which is a totally normal reaction.
Yeah.
I think like I would never judge someone for not being able to handle something like this, but like also not asking for help. Now, again, in this case, Hugin was afraid to leave, was afraid he'd be killed, all of that stuff.
Asking for help, yeah.
Correct. And there are a lot of reasons why, but it does paint the Bartrand scene in a very particular way. It's funny, I've only played through this game once as opposed to Origins where I played through twice, and then the other games in the series that are either fresher or I've played through more times. I really didn't remember. I remembered that the idol caused Bartrand to do what he did. Like that I knew. You can kind of see that there's some like a foreshadowing when he locks you away and he's kind of got that deep, dark stare and he's like seeming kind of mindless and distracted. So like there was a hint of that if you know anything about magic in the Dragon Age series. But I didn't really remember how it resolves. And so even in this moment, I'm a little taken aback because there does seem to be a heavy amount of concern and sympathy from Hugin that it wasn't just a ruthless act, that it seems like Bartrand isn't even control of his faculties.
And once we try to open the office, we are attacked by more guards and Bartrand himself. But once we reduce his health points, or his hit points rather, down to 0, he completely breaks down. And this gives us an opportunity to inspect him further, especially if you have a healer like Anders in your party.
Yeah, Varric is completely taken aback once Bartrand is broken, is kind of beside himself and not sure what to do. But as Hawk, you can say, well, actually, I have an idea. Anders, can you help? And Anders basically casts a spell on Bartrand and says, this won't permanently fix him. He'll only have clarity for a short amount of time. So basically whatever you need to say or whatever you want to find out, now's the time, because I can't fix him.
Right. And, you know, we see this happen a lot with various disorders that take the people we love away from us and puts them further inside their own heads, such as dementia, Alzheimer's. You know, schizophrenia is just one of the many ones. I leaned on that as an example because of the added symptoms of hearing and audio and visual delusions. But yeah, Anders thinks that Bartrand's mind has been poisoned and it's not demonic and there's nothing that he can really do about it except, like you said, secure a few moments of clarity, of lucidity. And Bartrand asks Varric to make it stop, and he begs him not to let the house fall.
Yeah, he basically begs for death. Like, I don't know that he says the words, but he basically says for him to end it, put an end to it.
Right. And I think you can make the argument that he is asking for an assisted suicide. And you can tell Varric to put his brother out of his misery. But I don't know. I'm all for helping people pass through their pain when it's their only way out. But I don't think that's the case here. I think that it would be cruel to put that onto Varric. And I think it's going to be hard either way. But I think killing his brother when he's suffering in this way will harden Varric in a way that is hurtful.
Yeah, and also something key that Anders says is that if it were anyone but a dwarf, he would assume they were possessed by a demon. But because dwarves, at least at this point in time, as far as we know, cannot use magic in the same way that other races can, they're basically immune to it in the sense that they cannot cast it or be possessed by demons, as far as they can tell. I think that there are, like, it's just very clear to Anders that there is no demon possession here. I don't know if it's less that he's a dwarf or more that it's just he's aware, he knows what demons are like, basically, because he's walking around with justice in his head. And so it is clear that that this is delirium. There's some kind of poisoning of his mind, but it's not a demon possession. We can't just blame or excise this thing.
I think because dwarves do not have the same connection to the Fade that elves and humans do, they can't be possessed by demons.
Yeah, but I also feel like we've fought dwarves, quote unquote, possessed, but maybe it's something else. I don't think we have. But maybe not. It's hard to keep what random fodder gets thrown at us in a mission straight.
That's fair.
But yeah, and so yeah,
I think we just fought some very angry dwarves.
Probably. But in this moment, as Hawke, you can either, like you said, support, like push Varric to kill his brother or support him. What I said. So what's interesting is the first thing I said was I chose that maybe you have to put him out of his misery, and when you choose that option, Varric basically pleads. He's like, Normally, I would agree with you, and when I walked in here, all I wanted was nothing more to kill Bartrand. But now looking at him, seeing my brother, and seeing what's happened to him, I do not think I can do that. I just don't think I can go through with it. And at that point, you are given another prompt to either push or acquiesce and say, Varric, you're right. And that's what I did. Then I acquiesced and said, Varric, you're right. And Varric basically insists that he knows healers. We're going to get you help. We're going to do whatever we can to fix this, but I'm not going to give up on you. And it's funny. We spend most of the game seeing Varric be very dismissive of his brother, knowing he's conniving, knowing he's plotting, and like clearly cares about his brother, but also mostly is annoyed by his brother or disappointed by his brother. And this is the first moment in the entire game where, I think we see Varric at his most sincere, full stop, which is probably why I tried hiding it from Cassandra, but also genuine love for his brother as well, which we could surmise but hadn't really seen, because he is very performative. He's one of the most masked characters, one of the characters that hides himself the most from who he truly is. But this is probably the most vulnerable we see Varric, I think, in the entire game, but for sure up to this point.
Yeah. Like, I think that it is very easy to say that you can kill someone without remorse when you know that their motives and their intentions were to be actively harmful.
Right.
But when faced with Bartrand's fear for his own sanity, I think that rage dissipates. Like, how can you be angry at this person who has absolutely no control? Like, yes, it still sucks. It still happened, but it's a very different experience to know that he didn't do this because he wanted to. He did this because something made him.
Yeah, I mean, blame is relative. I think the thing here is it's very easy to continue to blame Bartrand for this, because Bartrand, and like, it's funny, so there's some things that Varric says after this interaction before we get back to the hangman that I think supports that Varric is still Varric, and we'll get to that. But I just want to be clear, so you also chose the option to get him help.
Yes, I didn't even suggest killing him. I was just like, we should get him out of here. And like you said, Varric is like, we're going to take care of you. We will get you healers. You know, you're my brother. I'm not giving up on you. And now Varric has this struggle of being a caretaker for a relative who can't manage on their own. And Varric has plans to look into who purchased this idol because they need to be warned. This could be their future.
Yeah, and so you have this conversation about that outside of the estate, and then as Hawk, you can go, I'm really sorry, and like we'll get Bartrand help, and this isn't his fault, and Varric is quick to correct you and basically says, I'm not letting him off the hook. He is not responsible for all of his actions, but he took the dang idol in the first place. Like, he's not free of blame, and that's a depth and a dynamic that we don't always see in characters like this. The fact that he is recognizing the sympathy for his brother, he does feel bad, but he refuses to let his brother off the hook because we were in this mess to begin with, because he took the idol, because he was treasure hunting in the deep roads, because he set off on this expedition that was basically doomed to fail by everyone's consideration except for his. And so all of those elements, it's like Varric wants to, like, can Varric ever forgive him is the statement that you said at the end of the summary. I don't know, but currently Varric has not. Like, Varric, it explained some of his actions, and so Varric finds kindness in his heart, but has Varric forgiven him is still a question mark, because it's clear he hasn't at this moment.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to let him off the hook just because there is an explanation for his recent actions.
Well, I think forgiveness, whether it's deserved or earned or anything, it takes time.
Yeah, of course.
And, Varric just isn't ready, and whether he'll ever be ready, we'll see. Because I think we can agree that Varric is one of the most fleshed out, well-rounded characters in the series.
Yes.
Like, he has so much depth and dimension, as you said. And I don't think we get that from most of the characters we interact with.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that he's recurring in 3 of the 4 games. That allows him to get more time. Whereas other characters who recur only get, he ends up in your party twice in 2 games back to back, and then he's prevalent in the 3rd game he's in throughout most of the game. So, he has a lot of time to grow on each player and show, his depth and the kind of character he is. Whereas most of your other party members in these games are one-offs and not non-repeats. In fact, I think Varric's the only repeat character in 2 games back to back, as far as I can recall.
As a party member.
As a party member. There are other characters who recur from other games in different roles that you interact with a lot. I think of Liliana in the 3rd game. But, you
can vaguely count Anders because of Awakening.
Right. Though he is sort of a very different character in that.
He is a very different character.
I can see the connecting threads sometimes, but there are explanations for why, other than he's no longer being voiced by an asshole, but we'll leave that aside. But yeah, Varric is the character that you get to play in 2 games back to back in your party, and then is prevalent through 3 games. And so I think we get the most. And so it'll be an interesting lens to look at the player characters through as well, because we will have a consistent baseline through Varric through the rest of the series.
Okay, so after we conclude that mission, we have what is typically called questioning beliefs, which is our ability to catch up with our companion and see how this mission has changed them. Varric's is actually called a story to be told, which doesn't really touch on the experience of this mission. Instead, it touches on how Hawk's legend is growing, and that is Varric's personal mission. Yeah,
he talks about how this incident was quelled by Hawk, and how marvelous of a spectacle the combat was, and all of this stuff. Being a storyteller, and you can comment on this, and I had my Hawk said, but you didn't say anything about how handsome or dashing I was. You forgot that detail. And Varric, of course, goes, well, no, because the important detail was how handsome and charismatic your dwarf companion was, and how really he got the job done. It's a very playful banter that the 2 of them have.
Yeah.
And why I love this friendship, that if you want to lean into it, you can very much kind of ping pong, it's a concept we've talked about a lot on this podcast from a comedian that I've liked less over the years, but that we valued very much in the early days, Christopher Titus talking about friendships, and how if you insult a friend and they cry about it, that's not real friendship. But if you insult your friend and they insult you right back, that's the core bonds that last forever. And while it oversimplifies it, I do agree with that.
Right.
I like to pick on my friends.
It's more about someone matching your energy.
Correct. And I am someone who likes to poke fun at my friends, and when they can do it right back, that's how I know that I found a friend for life, because that's my love language. That's how I communicate. And that's very much why I like this relationship, because it does feel the closest to some of the friendships I actually have, where you can go tit for tat with your friends about whatever bullshit you're talking about.
Yeah, it's why we're besties, because our love language is being annoying.
Well, that's true. I mean, you're better at it, but yes.
I'm so good at it. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nobody is as annoying as you are.
No one annoys like Frankie.
Oh, God.
Look, I
I'm gonna start
very few skills in this life.
I'm gonna get a whiteboard that just says days since Frankie has sang on the podcast, and then just cross it out every time you sing another song on the podcast.
People love my singing.
Uh-huh.
If you hate my singing, you should stop listening to our podcast.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think it's ever gonna stop.
I do want to recite a quote that Varric said, because I just loved it so much.
Sure.
There's power in stories, though. That's all history is. The best tales. The ones that last. Might as well be mine.
It's a good one. I do like that
So good.
Varric is the story. We're reminded in this mission that he's the storyteller when he embellishes. We're reminded here in this mission that he also tells stories. And then we'll get to it, but I like how in future games we're reminded how he's a storyteller too. And it does play on dynamics that we've talked about in this game already, which I think is fun. And an evolution I didn't really see until now on my replay of this game. That is connecting threads that are fresher in my mind. So we'll talk about that more as we get to it. But
Yeah. And like, Varric can either be the person who builds your legend, or he can be the person who writes your indictment.
yeah.
And it depends on how you interact with him. And either way, his voice is so much more powerful than Hawk's.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have that reminder that he's an unreliable narrator. And we technically can't trust what we experience through Hawk's eyes, because even though we are seeing it through Hawk's eyes, it's really being told through Varric's.
And that's the most interesting thing I think about Dragon Age 2, and I'll want to talk about when we wrap up the season, is like,
Yeah.
how much of it is true? We'll never know how much of Dragon Age 2 is true. We know the pillars are true because they reverberate into the other games. But like the smaller moments, we are going based on what Varric says, because we can't possibly know. And it's just an interesting thing to discuss. Like, how much of it do we think is real? How much do we not? How much is embellished? That kind of thing. I think it's an interesting thing to look at.
And it could be our companions. They seem so much more extra and emphasized, and that could be because of Varric's storytelling style. Like, maybe Anders isn't actually this intense, but he comes off this way because that is how Varric saw him.
Right. Same with, like, say, Aveline and her devotion to the Guard, or Sebastian's insistence on religion and how religious he is and devote. Like, Varric is going to take things that seem like character traits and amp them up to make a good story, but also will how you perceive someone else's religion and how religious they are versus how they perceive it don't always line up just generally. And so, like, those kinds of things I think are definitely amped up by Varric's storytelling on some level or another.
I agree. I think that wraps us up for the quest.
Yes.
Do you have anything else you want to go over?
No, we can get into some fan mail. We've got 2 great posts in the Discord. Again, if you want to chat with us, you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com, or post in the Discord after we post the current episode. If you have comments and thoughts about the episode, we love to share them on the podcast. We have a couple here. We won't always read everything. We have limited time, limited space, limited brain power. And so, but we read everything. We just may not read everything on the show, but we are always grateful for everything everyone sends. But I wanted to especially highlight these 2. I'll read Night Divines, and then you can read Callie's because it's longer.
Oh, sure. Give me the long one.
You're better at reading than I am. You went to school for it and shit. You can't get out of it now.
2.5 degrees, baby.
So Night Divine writes to say, I do want to say that I've been following you guys since the beginning. While not playing along after but after a long hiatus, I have finally caught up on episodes. All Templars are bastards, truly. Thank you. I'm glad you agree. Even after, in our real world, I was technically a Templar gag for 5 years now. How unfortunate. And with specialization in my state's Department of Mental Health, I was stationed at an asylum for the criminally insane. Your podcast kept my wits about me, my own mental health intact. My time as a cop damaged me in every way possible more than I already was, and I'm glad that I left at the behest of my spouse. She saw my spiral. I'm midway through episode 6.23, and I have opinions about Justice and Anders, and y'all are not gonna like it. LOL. And then Frankie and Night Divine did have a back and forth, but Night, thank you for writing. Thank you for being so open and honest with our community. We appreciate it, and just I'm glad that our podcast helped. I'm glad that you're one of us and that you're a part of this community. We're happy to have you, and that you were able to see what you needed to see and are getting the help that you needed and have moved on from something that was hurting you, because that's not easy to do.
Yeah, my heart goes out to you. I was raised by cops, so I cannot imagine having to spend your time as one, but I'm really happy that you have moved forward and you are not doing a thing that hurt you.
Yep.
Let me read what Callie had to say. Callie says, a while ago, did say something closely resembling a warning that I would probably have much to say about Meryl. Also, as usual, your thoughts made me think of more to say. How dare. So this time, going to spread this out over a few days to avoid flooding the channel all at once. Mirror image. Was very curious and a little nervous how this would go. Had forgotten some details, but remembered feeling quite sympathetic toward Meryl throughout her quests, and worried I might not be this time. Tried to set aside all that and pretend this was new to me. Liked the intro conversation. I default to trusting my friend's judgment, perhaps sometimes too much, until seeing evidence I shouldn't. If Meryl thinks the Illuvian is repaired and safe, I have no reason to doubt her. Do want to hear it from Marathari about why she was so against it, but I find the idea that their ancestors meant it to be forgotten very unconvincing. Do not see why we should let dead people tell us what to do. Worth listening to their ideas and arguments, but we should choose for ourselves. Agree that some things are dangerous enough that they should be forgotten, but the Illuvian is just a communication device. Still have not played Veilguard, and still avoiding all spoilers. Approaching the camp, had to think a bit about how to handle the Templars. If they want to fight, it would be easy to let them have one and feel no guilt for making them regret starting it. I like helping stand up to bullies, but then more of the bastards would follow. Decided it was worth it to try and persuade them to leave Fainreal and the Dalish in peace, and for now, it worked. Callie, thank you, as always, for your thoughts. This was just part one of Callie's thoughts, so if you would like to hear the rest of what Callie has to say, you should join our Discord, because then you will get all of the scoop right there.
Yes, and thank you for always sharing your opinion. I mean, it's our favorite thing about this podcast is that we get to get different perspectives on stuff, and that we get to better understand the different choices that people can make when it comes to these games. So thank you, as always, for sharing.
Let's hop over to Fandom Corner, where I have something really fun to share. This is a total vibe shift. I want to share with you a book that I've been so excited for literally months. It's called And They Were Roommates by Paige Powers. It just came out this month. It is about a transmasculine student who has gotten into the school of their dreams, but it's an all-boys school, so they're a little stressed about that, especially since it's a very traditional boys' school. So if their identity is revealed, then they run the risk of losing their scholarship and their place at this school. However, when they get there expecting to be in a single room to protect their identity, they end up sharing a room with the worst possible person, their ex-boyfriend from pre-transition. So, what are they going to do? It's so good and so fun, and it's, if you like just like a nice romance, where you don't have to think too hard and it's just fun and wholesome. And it is the true essence of boys being boys, not in that toxic masculinity way, in a very wholesome masculinity way, in a very like, you have one gym bro who's like, hey man, I'm gonna help you get through PE because you know what? You deserve to be able to do this. And it's hard, especially if you have no one to help you. So I'm gonna help you. And it's just nice and positive and sweet. And there's a 12-year-old kid who is in high school because he skipped so many grades, and he wears his blazer like a cape, and he calls himself Blaze, a Destroyer of Worlds, because he hates his stupid name, which is Bingo Dixon.
I would hate that name too.
And like, it's very nice. I want to smack the love interest upside the head all the time because he's a dumb 17-year-old. But they're all dumb 17-year-olds in the best possible way, and I love them. So I highly recommend And They Were Roommates by Paige Powers, spelled Powars. And also, if Paige Powers ever hears this, congratulations on your engagement. I'm so happy for you. Paige proposed to their longtime partner through the dedication of the book. It was very adorable.
That's very sweet.
So, highly recommend. Go check it out. Also, related to BioWare, now is the time to secure Rook's Coffers, the collection that came out for Veilguard. That includes all sorts of swag. You get a light-up Lyrium dagger. You get Rook's card deck, which is 52 cards featuring illustrations from the world of Dragon Age. An enchanted die, which is a D12 featuring the Dragon Age dialogue wheel icons, and comes in a nice drawstring storage pouch. You get a glass potion flask, which you should not use for drinkware. Please don't do that. It is not safe. You also get a cloth mapping quiver. You get the companion lithograph that features the faces of your closest allies. You also receive a thank you letter from the creatives at the helm of Dragon Age, the Veilguard. This was originally retailing for $125, I think. I'm looking at it in pounds. Please don't make me do math. I hate that. So 112 pounds. It is now busted down to 45 pounds or $60 USD. So it is a massive deal. Go check it out if you have been waiting and you wanted it, but you just couldn't justify the cost. Now is the time. There is your fandom corner.
I don't have a fandom corner of my own this week. There's just nothing in particular that comes to mind. But I will say, while I am not one to shill for capitalism or supporting assholes like EA, if we want another Mass Effect or Dragon Age, we have to spend money on the stuff they make. And so going and buying this will show our support for the franchise that we love. And so if you would like to see more games in the future, please continue to buy the stuff related to those franchises.
You have to vote with your money.
Basically, yes, because that's the only language EA understands, unfortunately. And even though Veilguard did well by general gaming standards, it of course underperformed based on their insane standards, and because there was no battle passes or live game elements, like none of that, they're going to assume it was a failure because it was a straight up non-multiplayer story focused game because corporations are dumb. So buy these extended edition, collector's editions, and other versions, because it is how we show that we do want more of this stuff. Because I am now, like with the Veilguard, not yet convinced we will ever see another Mass Effect game, but I'm open to being surprised.
And if you just don't want stuff cluttering your house, and you love a certain non-binary pansexual personal pan podcaster, you could get it for them as a little treat.
That's true. And I do love that now that one description describes both hosts of this show.
It does.
To be clear, Frankie's talking about both of us. Anyway, moving on, our next episode will be The Long Road with Aveline. And so if you want to stay current with us, please play that mission, and as well as the postscript back at the guard station as well, like we've been doing for all the missions, and you can join in the conversation.
All right. So That's it for us today. If you like what you heard here, you can follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Blue Sky, YouTube, and Instagram. Or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. I would like to give you a reminder that in addition to posting your thoughts in our Discord, you can also send those thoughts to our email. You can send us a voice message. You can send us whatever you like, and we will share it because we love you and we love hearing your thoughts. If you have been engaging with our Fandom Corner, if you've tried any of the things that we've recommended, please definitely talk about it in the Discord. We would love to hear it. There has been some talk about blueprints, so I'm going to engage with that probably after we finish recording because I am finally in a place where I can talk about it without being enraged about that one puzzle box scenario. Oh my god. Okay. Yes, and also you can find Matt and I on Blue Sky as Frankie B. Rice and DJ Stormageddon.
Please also rate and review the podcast. It is the best and quickest and cheapest way to support this podcast. Most podcatchers have either a star rating review or an actual written review that you can do. Some have both. Popular ones like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, all of those have opportunities for you to do that. And again, it helps us combat the mighty algorithm to get boosted to the top. So when anyone is talking about their favorite dwarves, it'll not be about Lord of the Rings. It will be our episode about this incredible dwarf Varric instead. But really and seriously, it helps us grow the show. So if you want this audience to grow and the community to grow and bring more people into our ridiculousness, rating and reviewing the podcast is the best way to do that.
There are dwarves in Lord of the Rings.
Okay, we're not doing this. Just read the next part, please.
The lanterns of Gondola are lit, or whatever Jerry Toke said. Anyway, we're members of the Certain Point of View Network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on the website and join in the conversation.
As for personal plugs, it's the same usual stuff for me. You can go to djstormageddon.com to see my link tree and all the stuff that I do, the podcasts I work on, my merch store, my Twitch channel, all of that. I did stream last week as of when we're recording and hope to do some more of that in the coming future. I may or may not have streamed myself jailbreaking my 3DS so I could access the eShop again and get any game I want, because if Nintendo's going to take it away and not let us do it with our money, I'm going to do it by any means necessary. But Nintendo, if you're listening, I didn't do that. You're hearing things. Thanks.
Matt's a prolific liar.
It's true.
Actually.
I'm very good at it.
Matt makes up things to make themselves sound cool.
All the time. You never see through my lies. I'm so good at it. No one ever knows immediately when I'm lying because I'm so bad at it. That never happens. And of course, you can support my other podcasts, Fun and Games, that I do with the incredible Jeff Moonen. We have a Patreon, or you can just go check out the show and give it a listen. Our most recent episode as of recording is we talked about how we got to see different Dragon game. We got to see Dragon Quest 1 and 2 2D HD remake. God, the titles just kill me. We got a private appointment with Square Enix during PAX East, and we were able to talk about it. And then we also in that episode then go on to talk about the state of embargo, seeing things before release, and the benefit it is to those games, to the publishers and to the creators, and how that dynamic works. That's basically an email handshake, and why we do those things, and the way that Jeff and I have seen growth just in our own podcast as we engage more with those kinds of things, and in the system of where a rising tide raises all ships. Frankie, what have you got going on?
I'm kind of working on building myself a website finally. And I would love to hear from you guys what you think I should have on my website. If there's anything that you're interested in that I do, definitely tell me so I can make sure you have access to it. But in addition to that, I would like to remind you that I've been published in 2 anthologies. The first one is called Writing from the Heart, edited by Jay Jenkins and Robbie Taylor. The second one is called Caught Alight, edited by Mary Farrell. Both are available from your corporate overlords at Amazon. Reminder, I get no money if you purchase either, so if you would like to kick me like $1 and say good job, you can do that over PayPal at Frankie B. Writes.
Do that. Do those things.
Yeah.
We'd also like to thank, of course, the one and only Case Aiken for developing some awesome t-shirts that you can get over at certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring. And also would love to thank Case for designing each and every episode's individual show art. We really appreciate it.
And we would like to thank Miracle of Sound for our theme music. We really love it.
And, of course, we want to thank the one and only Red Spinks for our Dragon Age-inspired logo. To see more of his work, you can go to Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
I told you, Red has a legion of clones now. There is no one and only Red Spinks.
There still will always...
There is only legion.
There will still always be one Red Spinks in my heart.
And lastly, we'd like to thank you for listening. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt A.K. Stormageddon. And remember, all Templars are bastards.
Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, 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 Hawk.
Hey,
Oh, hey, Jeff.
what's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CertainPOV.com.